Hi, my name is Amanda. I did my older adult project on my boyfriend's grandmother. Her name is Marcy. Just to kind of sum her up real quick, she's I've always felt that she's an extremely nice person. She's very religious. Let's see, when she was younger, she grew up in Las Vegas on the outskirts of the Strip, so not close enough to really get maybe some of the more crime-ridden area, and none of the strippers, anything like that you would see basically on the Strip, anything like that. But so she was very involved. She finished high school. She's very involved, very on top of things, and I've always been very impressed with her from the little bits and pieces that I've gotten over the past couple of years, as well as the interview that I've gotten to know her maybe a little bit better than I have. Let's see. So I did my project on the intimacy versus isolation stage. So we're talking those bigger relationships where you form the intimacy maybe outside of your family, and maybe from rejection, fear, various other factors, you may land yourself in isolation due to the crisis that he has identified. So her major crisis was she got married very young, and so it ended up that the first marriage was ridden with physical and emotional abuse that she endured for a couple of years before they got a divorce. Now, two things happened because of the time period. It was very difficult, she said, to get people to help her find the resources to get a divorce and do those things on her own. And it was kind of a society, her area, like shocker, because they didn't realize what was going on. The time period, men were more valuable, were seen as the head of household, various different things like that. So it was kind of a big shocker to everyone that she even took those steps. But so the only thing that really helped her was her family. She explained that she has a very good family connection, and as soon as she started talking about these kinds of things, they kind of went, okay, this is worse than we had pictured it to be, because he had started isolating her as well to make sure no one noticed that. So once they figured out how bad it was, they backed her up, just her church friends, friends out in the community, different things like that were kind of not backing her up as much as maybe they would today in our time period. So kind of figuring out that piece to get her out of the situation, as well as the time period, as I keep saying, men were oppressive to women. They were a dominant figure. They said, women did. So it's kind of one of those plays where it was very hard for her to get out, because she had this conflict about, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Why am I doing something else? So that's kind of where that came into play. One of her biggest struggles really was getting people to back her up and having some help with that. So what she kind of explained to me too is it was more than just getting into this intimate relationship and it not going well and her just pulling back from everyone. It was, she didn't know who she was anymore. She felt taken advantage of. She felt very hurt by someone that was supposed to be in love with her, and it kind of changed who she was in the identity perspective too. So that I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. But luckily for her, and this is kind of where I veered off on my research a little bit. I don't even know how to say this last name. Svetlana, I believe. I think it's Russian. She did some research showing that your emotional intelligence was something that I learned about in our last semester in 501, I believe, and or 503. So basically, she had a good emotional intelligence. So she just needed the time to figure out what was going on and know what she needed to do to move forward. Whereas I feel like in this stage specifically, if you don't have a good like emotional intelligence and knowing how to manage your feelings and knowing when enough is enough, you probably wouldn't do very well. And so that's where I kind of veered off, because I think that's an important thing to mention is it really needs to be a multifaceted thing. Like there's a tie into your emotional intelligence and understanding that, and a key to moving on to your next stage with this. So then from this point, I of course, did her interview, and then I picked the conflict theory because I feel like that really explained a lot of the stuff that happened to her. So we're talking her church, her family, society, rules and regulations, how cops behaved around people, was that men were the dominant, women were secondary, and that was passed down through generation to generation. And so it became this circle effect. And I feel like she took a big chance on breaking away in her community and getting a divorce and doing these things that were completely against her own beliefs and then the beliefs of the people that were around her. So it was very impressive to hear her talk about that. So with that theory, I really think it explained that part to a T and why she got into the situation. I think the major limitation that I noticed was that in the same sense, that only covers the macro. So when you're talking about an individual, you have no idea how that individual with this theory that you're gonna come out. Different situations vary from person to person because we're all each our individual own selves, take things differently, different things like that. So it doesn't really explain why she kicked back. And coming from what I see now, she has tons of friends. I work at the mall on the weekends, and every morning she's there walking with 3 or 4 girls. She's gotten married again, clearly, had kids, raised multiple kids. Like, she's developed intimate relationships and other facets, even after what Erikson seems to place as a one or the other kind of thing. Conflict theory just kind of says this is why this happened, but it doesn't really move forward or explain that, oh yeah, she switched her life around, changed some things up, and got things going. So it was just kind of interesting to sit down and talk with her about it and get her perspective, because she is, on the emotional intelligence, I feel like she would score very well because she was very articulate in explaining to me step by step what happened and how she felt on these different points. Clearly now she feels that it happened for a reason. She's very religious. She feels God put her in that position so she could learn from it. And that is great. But, once again, she can explain it to me, but I just don't know that these theories really summed up the entire thing for me. So, in conclusion, they're good to explain bits and pieces, but you're definitely going to have to use your best judgment and mix some theories together to be able to really get what you're needing to get out of the theory. Just like I feel like with the Erikson thing, even just with that, I already mixed in the conflict theory to explain that, and then I called in emotional intelligence, so it kind of gave me a broad spectrum of she had a good emotional intelligence score, so she bounced back and she knew what was going on. This is why it happened because of the conflict theory, explaining that her values and beliefs are brought down. It's just, I feel like you definitely have to use multiple theories in order to get what you need. So that's what I really feel like the limitations are. But in conclusion, I really think that this is a good opportunity for me to get to know her better, get to know interview skills, and maybe a safer setting than sometimes with some of the clients that I work with. You say, ask the wrong question, do the wrong thing, and they get very upset. We're talking triggers left and right, not knowing how to get around something, so sometimes it derails the entire thing. So learning how to ask questions appropriately, I feel like, was very important in this, and being able to show the compassion and different things to her and know what was acceptable. And when she kind of looked at me like I was strange because some of the things I didn't really expect, and that's going to be something that we're going to see every day. So really, I think this was an awesome experiment for me. So thank you for this opportunity, and I will catch you all later. Bye.